Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, and things adjacent. It took me a really long time to start this video today because of technical difficulties. But anyways, let me just jump right in before I lose. I had a train of thought about what I was going to talk about, and then all this stuff happened, and then I totally forgot what I was going to say. Anyways, today there was a climate strike going on. There is a youth climate strike, global climate strike for Future March in Los Angeles. It's happening right now. I would like to be there. However, I have to work today. I'm going to see if I can get down there before it ends and take some footage. But too many things on my very important things to do list are keeping me from being right there right now. But I want to let you all know about it. It's about 11:20. I'll probably upload this video in about an hour, so I don't know if that's going to be in time for anybody to get the word and get over there. It's at Pershing Square in downtown Los Angeles. There is another youth climate strike in Los Angeles on Friday, June 14th. So if you want to participate in the climate strikes and climate awareness, and you want to get together and rally with some folks, that is happening on June 14th, which isn't too far away. You can find that on Facebook. Also, another order of business. I got a letter saying somebody didn't receive their t-shirt, and I actually had a t-shirt returned to my P.O. box, and I guess the address sticker fell off. I don't know if that has happened to anybody else. So if anybody did not get their t-shirt, could you please let me know so I can get it to you right away? And also, I guess I'll just do a quick plug. If you want a Black Bear News t-shirt, you can order one at the PayPal links below for $20 domestic and include $5 for shipping. And let me know your size and color, and I will let you know. I'll ship one to you. So if you're interested in a t-shirt, just or email me at blackbearnews@gmail.com, and we can figure it out. So a few things that I've been wanting to cover for a while, tabs that have been open in my browser. And for whatever reason, I think because they looked long and arduous to get through, I kind of avoided doing them. But I'm just going to kind of plow through a couple of things and see how far we get. This is from Business Insider from April 20th. We're altering the climate so severely that we'll soon face apocalyptic consequences. That's true. Here are 11 last-ditch ways we could hack the planet to reverse that trend. And that's a frightening sentence. I don't know. I don't want to hear somebody talking about hacking the planet. We are already hacking the planet, hand over fist. We're hacking it to smithereens, hacking it to bits, hacking it to death. We are hacking the planet, literally hacking, as in chopping. Anyways, we'll kind of briefly skim through this. Oceans are hotter than they've ever been in recorded history. Ice sheets are melting at unprecedented rates. Sea level rise threatens countless species, coastal cities, and local economies. As researchers' warnings about the consequences of climate change get more dire, some scientists and politicians are suggesting we do more than just curb our greenhouse gas emissions. Yes, that's a good thing to suggest, more than that. They want to hack our climate. A technical term for this is geoengineering. The concept evokes fantastical images of weather-controlling satellites, giant space mirrors, and carbon-sucking tubes. Some techniques for modifying Earth's atmosphere aren't in the realm of fantasy. In fact, discussions about manipulating the atmosphere to cool the planet are growing increasingly mainstream, even while the Army and the DoD have been really actually working on this for decades, I'm sure. If you don't think that's happening, I don't know. You must live in some kind of Pollyanna, rose-colored, utopia where people just do good things because they're good people. And when they get caught doing bad things, they just, we'll stop. We won't do that. In fact, discussions about manipulating the atmosphere to cool the planet are growing increasingly mainstream, and I just read that. Some political candidates, including presidential hopeful Andrew Yang, think that the U.S. needs to beat other countries to these technologies. Scary. Other experts are less than convinced that these planet hacks are a good idea. The side effects may be almost as bad as the disease you're trying to cure, author and environmental activist Bill McKibben told Business Insider. What's more, McKibben said geoengineering does little to address other problems that arise from greenhouse gas emissions, such as ocean acidification, although they do have technology to address that, or, at least in theory. There are two main types of geoengineering. The first is carbon capture, which entails removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Carbon capture and storage is becoming widely accepted as safe and potentially effective climate-changing tool. Many people see it as a way to simply undo the changes that human activity is already causing. In some cases, CCS technology can also prevent carbon emissions from entering the atmosphere at all. Instead, carbon dioxide that's created when coal burns or electricity is generated can be captured, in a plant, then transported and stored somewhere else. Some companies are already developing promising carbon capture technologies. Norway state-owned carbon capture technology coordinator Gas Nova is facilitating financial support for the development, demonstration, and pilot studies of CCS technologies in the country. A New York-based startup, Global Thermostat, that's an interesting name, uses carbon sponges to absorb carbon dioxide directly from the atmosphere, smokestacks, or both. Carbon Engineering, a British Columbia-based company owned in part by Bill Gates, is also striving to open commercial plants to pull carbon dioxide directly out of the air. One of the biggest issues with these carbon capture technologies, however, is figuring out where to put the carbon dioxide after it's captured. As an overview, I'm going to say that we're absolutely going to have to do something like this if we're going to make it out. Where do you put the captured carbon? What do you do with it? Apparently, there are companies that are turning it into fuel, which is carbon neutral or carbon zero when you burn it. Can these be scaled up in time? Captured carbon could also get stored in containers filled with carbon dioxide eating or converting algae and bacteria. Some companies are trying to turn the carbon they capture into useful materials. Cement, right? A company called Blue Planet converts carbon dioxide into bicarbonate, then uses that to make building materials. Another major planet hacking strategy is solar geoengineering, which involves injecting particles or clouds into the sky that reflect sunlight back into space. This is probably one of the scariest of the technologies because we have no idea how adversely that's going to affect the climate, which is already adversely affected. This is also called solar radiation management or albedo modification. It also involves, injecting things into the sky. Oh, and isn't that a great idea? Ultimately, solar geoengineering aims increase the amount of solar radiation that gets reflected out into space from Earth in order to cool down the planet. The idea for solar geoengineering is inspired by the effects of volcanic eruptions. This volcanic effect could be mimicked via a technique called stratospheric aerosol scattering. This involves injecting the upper atmosphere with tiny reflective particles like sulfuric acid or aerosols. Ew. Just makes me shudder to think about that. Mirrors, of course, also reflect sunlight, so some scientists have floated the idea of putting giant mirrors in space. Maybe. In the 2000s, a scientist named Lowell Wood from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory suggests that a giant space mirror made of aluminum mesh could combat climate change, but he warned that the device would need to be 600,000 square miles in area, about the size of Greenland, to do any good. Okie dokie. Eliminating or thinning some cirrus clouds, a type of cloud that sits high in the atmosphere and absorbs radiation, could be another way to send heat back into space. This effort would involve reducing high-altitude cirrus clouds by seeding them with water-depleting aerosols. One technology that manipulates the clouds is already in use today. It doesn't really address climate change, but it does allow us to make it rain when and where we want. So this is actually the interesting part of this article for me, because I actually, with no actual science or evidence other than my own eyeballs, I actually think that they're already manipulating the clouds. They're making clouds. I don't know if they're already thinning clouds. I don't know. I wouldn't know what that looks like, or if I could actually see that with my own eyes. I don't know anybody else who has seen, some kind of cloud thinning activities going on. Yes, we do manipulate rain, and also can manipulate the weather in order to eliminate hail from falling. So that's already been documented that Volkswagen has been defending against hail hitting their cars in Mexico. So they are manipulating the weather in Mexico. So yeah, just to briefly get back, like I think that not all contrails are natural. Some might be, and that's a really great way to hide creating contrails, right? Because some actually happen, due to natural factors. So when you see a plane making a contrail in the sky, you're like, oh, it's just a contrail. But how would you know? How would you know the difference? How would you know if they were actually making the contrail themselves, creating it themselves? It would be hard to decipher. And I've seen very, kind of intentional, manipulated cloud making in the sky when it's, been really hot, or the sun's out and there's no cloud in sight. And then all of a sudden there's clouds. Oh, they didn't just move in. The planes, flew enough over a certain area to create this cloud cover, which makes everybody think, oh, it's not 98 degrees, it's only 85 degrees or whatever. Instead of focusing on clouds, some researchers are looking into ways to save melting Arctic ice. Ice sheets are responsible for, good luck with that. Ice sheets are responsible for reflecting lots of sunlight into space, so less ice means less heat leaving the planet. I have no idea how you would do that. Studies show that 75% loss of Arctic ice volume that we've seen since 1979, 75%. And the related loss of sunlight reflected surfaces has significantly contributed to our warming planet. A nonprofit called Ice 911 wants to spread tiny glass beads around the Arctic that mimic ice reflective abilities. Okay, this is a ridiculous idea. This is dumber than rocks. We already are very close to a blue ocean event, which means, very, very minimal ice in the Arctic. That could happen this year or next year. Within the next 5 years, it will happen. I don't know where you're going to spread these beads around. Are you just going to put them on the open ocean? You're going to put them on the, inch thick ice in the Arctic during the winter? I don't understand how this works. Alternatively, some researchers are pushing to shore up melting ice from the bottom. Again, I don't understand. You're going to have... One proposed technique is to raise artificial ridges to protect the weakening margins of glaciers. Scientists warn that such a project could cost billions of dollars. Yeah. Beyond all these options, researchers and investors are also thinking about geoengineering strategies that sound like something out of science fiction. Y Combinator, a prestigious incubator that boasts alums like Dropbox and Airbnb, issued a request last year for startups focusing on what they called frontier technology ideas for geoengineering. Okay, so, we need ideas, definitely. We need the right ideas. And so I guess I would actually support Andrew Yang in the sense that, like, we're gonna have to do something like this if we're gonna save ourselves. Yes, it could all end up we could all end up in the same place, which is all gone, regardless. But if nobody's talking about it or thinking about it or proposing something that like, oh, that actually makes sense and that actually won't destroy everything, while we're trying to save ourselves, without the actual ideas or the conversation, then absolutely nothing will get done. Examples of these frontier solutions include developing genetically engineered phytoplankton that take in carbon dioxide via photosynthesis and flooding deserts to create micro oases that serve as carbon sinks. That sounds goofy, although the phytoplankton possibly. Wilder still is a proposal to create a cloud of asteroid dust in space that would shield the Earth from sunlight. Maybe. How do you reverse it if it's a mistake? A group of Scottish scientists suggested this idea in 2012. Their plan called for pushing an asteroid to a specific point in space where it would feel equal gravitational pulls from the Earth and Sun, so it would remain anchored in place. Then a spacecraft would land on the asteroid and hurl asteroid dust into space. Science or science fiction? In general, any geoengineering project or proposal that involves tweaking the delicate chemistry of Earth's atmosphere and its cycles faces enormous opposition. Many scientists are particularly concerned about solar geoengineering experiments because most models predict that the effects will be felt differently around the globe, even in spots far from the initial location. For example, if solar geoengineering technology gets deployed in the southern hemisphere, that could impact ocean temperature and wind speeds, leading to more hurricanes in the northern hemisphere. Plus, failed geoengineering technology could leave Earth's atmospheric chemistry irreversibly altered. It is already irreversibly altered. So yeah, we're just, kids with some tinker toys right now at this moment. We could end up damaging the ozone layer, already damaged, for example, which protects us from harmful ultraviolet radiation. We don't want to damage it anymore, but there's, obviously problems. However, a recent study asserted that it is possible to tweak the atmosphere in a way that would prevent other parts of the planet from experiencing weather backlash. Okay. Yet some scientists and politicians are already warning that geoengineering could lead to war. If China starts playing with atmospheric modifications on its own rather than as a part of a global initiative, Yang said he expects the worst. Right? He worries a rogue country could pull the trigger on an atmospheric transformation project that affects the entire world. The resulting conflicts with other nations could ultimately escalate to a nuclear war. All right, good times in the end times. A lot of, ridiculous, some halfway decent ideas, but we are in interesting and scary times nonetheless. Moving on. Headline, 8 million salmon killed in a week by sudden surge of algae in Norway. And this is from 2 days ago. Death comes weeks after similar incident in Scotland. We're all pretty worried. A sudden surge in algae has killed at least 8 million salmon in 1 week across Norwegian fish farms. The state-owned Norwegian Seafood Council has said the enormous algal blooms due to recent warm weather have spread rapidly around Norway's northern coast, sticking to fish's gills and suffocating them. Wild fish can swim away from the lethal clouds of aquatic organisms, but farmed fish are trapped. The algae is continuing to spread. Jesus. Algal blooms in Norway in May. This is super scary. I'm going to link this below and move on. Another scary headline. This is from Sputnik News, and this is from April 28th. Secret UK military lab gassed, killed 48,400 animals in 7 years. So it's disgusting and horrifying if 6 million people or millions of people get gassed or killed in genocide. And it is horrible and horrifying. But it's totally fine that we just kill animals, for research. It's totally fine that we kill animals for food. It's totally fine that we kill animals, period, if they're getting in the way of, what we want to do. The notorious British lab is located near Salisbury, the city where former Russian GRU agent Sergei Skripal and his daughter were poisoned with a nerve agent. I didn't mean to laugh at that. I think that's horrible. Although they're pushing a little bit of weird propaganda right in there. Russia has repeatedly indicated that the lab could have been involved in the incident, as it has worked with similar substances in the past. Around 48,400 animals, namely pigs, monkeys, and guinea pigs, were killed in experiments conducted at the secret Porton Down laboratory in Wiltshire. Between 2007 and 2017, the Sunday Mirror reported the Ministry of Defense supported the practice as being life-saving for British troops. There you go. Because British troops need to keep, they need to be safe so they can go out and, possibly kill more people. Safety, right? This is a serious problem. There's a weird thought process or paradigm or programming in that, anything that, humans have to be safe at all costs, especially your humans, especially the humans that live in your country or your city or, your family have to be safe at all costs. And it doesn't matter if you kill the planet making them safe. Do you see how ridiculous that sounds? So if we, destroy other animals, destroy other people, destroy the planet, destroy ecosystems, because we need to be safe. And ultimately nobody is safe. So, there's a limit to safety. And here's a newsflash. We all die. We all die. Everybody gets sick. No, I don't want anybody to get sick. I don't want anybody to die, but that's like the reality of life is that, part of life is that you die and things happen to you. And that's called balance. Because nobody gets to live forever. Nobody ever gets to live a perfect life. And nobody never gets sick. And who was it? Was it Gupta? Was talking about, we're destroying the planet to just add a few years to human lives. Or make people a little more comfortable. And the trade-off is not a reasonable or rational trade-off at all. Rather than just accepting our mortality and accepting the fact that like shitty things happen and we have to deal with them, we need to be safe at all costs. Anyways, I was getting off on a little mini rant there. Let me just stop. Porton Down reportedly tested experimental body armor by blasting animals covered in it with various explosives. Jesus Christ. It has also tested poisonous substances, gases, and nerve agents on animals. Lovely humans being, so great and so humanitarian. So caring and wonderful. Yeah. Interestingly, so Moscow demands that London explain the nature of the Porton Down's latest experiments, as the laboratory is located so close to Salisbury, where the Skripals lived. So apparently they're saying that somehow maybe they were poisoned. So yeah, okay, I get what they're saying. So the UK blamed Moscow on the poisoning of these two agents, or of this agent. And they're saying, hold on, maybe they were poisoned because they were close to this laboratory. Interesting theory. I don't know. I'm going to link that below. Move on to this last article. This has been in my browser for a long time, and I've wanted to talk about this, but I've avoided it because it's so huge. It's such a heavy thing. And actually, Kyle Kalinske did a video on just this story a couple days ago. But it's a horrifying story that Navy SEALs were warned against reporting their chief for war crimes. Special Operations Chief Edward Gallagher. So I guess this guy, I'm going to read a little bit of this and then I'll just summarize. Stabbing a defenseless teenage captive to death. Picking off a school-age girl and an old man from a sniper's roost, indiscriminately spraying neighborhoods with rockets and machine gun fire. Navy SEAL commandos from Team 7's Alpha Platoon said that they had seen their highly decorated platoon chief commit shocking acts in Iraq. And they had spoken up repeatedly, but their frustration grew as months passed and they saw no sign of official action. Tired of being brushed off, 7 members of the platoon called a private meeting with their troop commander on March 2018 at Naval Base Coronado near San Diego, according to a confidential Navy criminal investigation report obtained by the New York Times. They gave him the bloody details and asked for a formal investigation. But instead of launching an investigation that day, the troop commander and his senior enlisted aide, both longtime comrades of the accused platoon leader, Special Operations Chief Edward Gallagher, warned the 7 platoon members that speaking out could cost them and others their careers, according to the report. So I'm not going to read any more of this. I'm going to link it below, but it's horrifying. I'm just going to give you an overview, which is basically this guy was running amok in Iraq and just mowing people down, killing people, and when these guys tried to report it, they were threatened. Eventually, they threatened the Navy with going to the media and by going to the top brass and saying, look, we're not gonna stand down. This guy needs to be reined in. And this, so this is a huge problem because we're committing war crimes, war atrocities. We're doing regime change wars, which are illegal. As Kyle Kalinske brought up, Noam Chomsky said, if the Nuremberg trial, if the Nuremberg, statutes were upheld, every president since World War II would be basically put to death for crimes against humanity or for violating these laws, these war crimes laws. And so these, people who are trying to expose these laws are being threatened. Chelsea Manning is being jailed. Julian Assange is they're trying to extradite Julian Assange specifically over exposing war crimes. There are a lot of things that Julian Assange has exposed worldwide, globally, but specifically the United States wants to punish Chelsea Manning and Julian Assange for exposing these war crimes. And the result, the reason for that is because they want to strike fear in the hearts of future whistleblowers. And they also want to uphold American exceptionalism. They want to uphold American hegemony, and they want to make sure that that is not threatened on any level. That there can be no UN resolution. The UN actually has made resolutions in the past and has actually found the U.S. guilty of war crimes. Has actually called out the U.S. for its atrocities. Has called out the U.S. for violating Geneva Conventions, etc. But we just skirt the law. We just do whatever we want because, bottom line, we are not the good guys. Bottom line, we are the evil empire. We are an evil empire, protecting ourselves at all costs, protecting our power at all costs, protecting our supremacy at all costs, protecting the right and the ability for us to just do whatever we want all over the planet. And it's totally wrong. There seems to be a growing anti-war movement, and there seems to be growing anti-war voices in this country, and they need to grow louder, and they need to overwhelm and overtake the rampant, maniacal, pathological, psychopathic patriotism that runs the power structure in this country and rules a lot of people's thinking in this country. We do not want regime change wars. We do not want our sons and daughters to go and die in military conflicts all over the world. We don't want to be at war with the world constantly. We want to bring our troops home, and we need to obviously do all of that in order to fight climate change. We need to slash our military budgets and put that money towards useful things like saving the planet and saving actual lives and saving the future of our children. And war is directly getting in the way of that. Because it's more important to protect our power base and protect our power structure than it is to, stand down and do other, more positive things with our power and our money. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.